How are you? How's everyone doing? Let's start with the news. Astrid is already with us. How are you?
How are you? How are you doing?
Good evening. Well, let's go with the news about what's happening in the world. Go ahead and leave a like. Go ahead and share. You already know what to do to support the channel, and so we can be here every day live, talking, chatting, and informing you about what's happening in the world in real time. Let's get into the details of what's happening with the biggest cyclone so far in 2026, a Category 5. Let's see what's happening with the Sakuriyama volcano, which is experiencing another strong eruption in Japan as well. What's happening with China? They're making chess moves now at a level that hasn't been seen before. They're taking advantage of the war in Iran. Also, what are the market reactions? What's happening with Iran? There are also movements. Watch out, there are massive movements in Iran. There are movements happening right now that suggest the conflict will continue and it's going to get really serious, as they say. Let's go to the information. Let's get the details. Thank you very much for joining us. Go to Android Live, keep sharing, and thanks for the super chats and everyone supporting us. We really appreciate you being with us. Let's look at the details. How are you, Ruben Adilson, Panterita, Dieguito, Walter Osorio? Huge shout out to everyone. Let's start with the image. Well, what stands out today is a cyclone called Sinlaku. Let's get to the topic because this is the first Category 5 we've had. In 2026, it's a super typhoon that already reached the maximum category and, well, it's drawing attention. Obviously, right now we're looking at the image on what's called windy.com. No, which shows, well, let's go. The amount of wind that's hitting really hard, which is near Papua New Guinea, where there was recently a hurricane, or rather over there they call it a cyclone, but anyway, cyclone, hurricane. The thing is, it hit New Zealand recently. In fact, well, there was already an alert, even thousands of people evacuated in New Zealand further south. Yes, this cyclone that already passed here, we're still seeing the remnants, but further north. Also, a very powerful cyclone is being reported in the Pacific. Meanwhile, there are some islands that could be at risk, and here we'll be reporting on how the planes are doing. What's going to happen in the next few days? Meanwhile, we'll have to see how it develops. No, there's not a very large country at risk, although some of these islands could obviously face it. For example, Juan, which would be a little further north. But for now, well, let's wait for more details as it gets closer. We'll be keeping track of it. The news is that we've already started with a Category 5 hurricane. Well, it's just the first one of the year.
The first one of the year and quite powerful, starting with this hurricane, which is considered the second. Well, actually, it would be the most powerful one of 2026 so far this year.
I mean, 350 kilometers per hour is no joke. Obviously, these are very strong gusts, and it's expected that this intensification could continue even further over the next 24 hours. The Mariana Islands, for example, could be the ones at risk. They're the ones mainly at risk, so keep an eye on that as well. We'll be sharing more details as we go. Meanwhile, another surprising image is this one of Sakuriyama with another eruption. A powerful one, an eruption that, well, since it's a very active volcano in Japan, it doesn't really surprise them much. It's partly because there are lots of precautions in place, but yes, we've already shown an image of Sakuriyama volcano from early this morning. They're already on the 13th there, and this image from early this morning showed a bit of what's been happening in that part of the world. We saw this image just a few moments ago where you can see a bit of incandescence. You can see, well, those typical lightning bolts that form when ash clouds are generated. Yes, we're seeing it there, it's impressive, but there still weren't any images of how it happened or the size of the plume. They're saying it's around 6 or 7 kilometers approximately. It's also pretty serious. Another image should be here. There it is. Well, I think it's the same one, right? It must be the same one. Yes, it must be the same one we saw at the beginning. Well, the point is that Sakuriyama is showing significant activity again. This is another one. There it is. Well, that's part of what's happening. Impressive. Obviously, the flights that are nearby are simply on alert so they can avoid the area. No, that's basically what's happening. For now, there isn't any other alert like an evacuation or anything like that. At least for now, no. They just have to go around it. That's it. All the roads to Kagoshima are closed as well. Another detail, let's say, that's also interesting.
Specifically in Kagoshima and Miyazaki, ash was reported and there was also a moderate accumulation. According to reports, an official from Kagoshima Prefecture indicated that after the eruption, no immediate damage was reported.
Well, let's move on to other important matters. Also, hey, check out this image showing Donald Trump. It's the first hotel in history on the moon. Well, it's his dream, obviously, right? Eh, hey, this is when there's nothing left to do. No, wait.
The other one he posted, no.
No, well,
So you can scare her.
Just a few moments ago, President Donald Trump just posted a rendered image on his social media page showing a massive Trump Tower. Well, now it's all lit up golden, a little golden and silver, right on the lunar surface. Trump is indulging a wild fantasy right now, and well, it's part of the strange things that are happening at the moment, as if there weren't more important things to do. But anyway, we have another image.
Yes, we have another imaginative image from Trump that has drawn considerable attention and is being featured by various international media outlets.
No.
I already sent it to you.
It went through.
I haven't seen it. I missed it.
I haven't seen it. It's just, well, that's it.
It's the last one?
It's the last one. I just don't like cutting back to us and then to the image again.
Sorry, excuse me. I'm made for...
The magic is lost. They gave us. That's it. Let's start again.
No, tell me if this isn't more abstract than...
Let's see. No, man, that's it. Lucas is coming. No, he's coming.
We've already lost him. He's really lost now, isn't he?
Donald Trump, now this really is the Jesus Christ one, right? Let's go. There it is, posted by Donald Trump. President Trump, well, now he's acting like a miracle worker healing the sick. Well, that's how it is, right? Meanwhile, while he's criticizing the Pope, he's the one performing miracles now, or so they say. And well, that's all he says. He's the one. Well, Chihuahua's, when you have to distract from the other distraction, right? I mean, when you already...
You don't even have anything left.
To go to the distraction, but then now who distracts him? I mean, how do you distract them from the war, right? I mean, now you have to distract them from the distraction. And so he said, well, let me tell you that I am Jesus Christ in person. Well, I mean, that's how it is. It is. No, well, I really didn't expect it. It really surprised me.
Nivel increíble, ¿verdad? Really, truly.
It's just that, you know, that level of blasphemy, let's say, is really something, isn't it? And, well, also, another image that stands out is this one. Well, this post, precisely in which, well, he says things to the Pope, to Pope Francis. He tells him that he's weak. He says that he's in favor of crime. Just things that, well, honestly, are really unbelievable. I think there's going to be a boom of people who will want to become Catholic now, just for the sake of opposing.
Honestly, it really puts you off.
Just to oppose, Trump said, you know what? Well, now I do. Now I really have a belief. I'm Catholic. Hey, let's hear what the Pope himself, Donald Trump, have to say.
And they're going to come back full of oil, all right?
Mr. President, why did you attack Pope Leo on Truth Social?
I don't think he's doing a very good job. He likes crime, I guess. He attacked us. Think about it. He's worried about fear. And what about the fear when the ministers and the priests and all those important people who were arrested during COVID, and in many cases they were outside, separated by 3 meters, and still they were arrested? So we don't like it. We don't like a pope to say that it's okay to have a nuclear weapon. We don't want a pope who says that crime is okay in our cities. I don't like it. I'm not a big fan of Pope Leo. He's a very liberal person, and he's a man who doesn't believe in stopping crime. He's a man who doesn't think we should be playing around with a country that wants a nuclear weapon to blow up the world. No, I'm not a fan of Pope Leo.
Okay, well, because right now that's part of the concern based on the comments that Trump himself has made as well. Like, well, he's talking about the negotiations, right? And this is what he said.
Oh, I don't know. I don't care if they come back or not. If they don't come back, I'm fine. Their army is gone, eh? Their missiles are mostly depleted. The missile and drone manufacturing capability is practically destroyed. We have been very kind. We haven't destroyed too many bridges. We only destroyed one because they broke their word. They broke their promise. And remember, their promise was that they were going to open the Strait of Hormuz. They didn't do it. They lied.
Well, that's what Trump says about the negotiations. Well, but that was never said. They never promised to open the strait. If not, never, never. Not this one and then. Well, he's the one who promised it, but well, he didn't help us. Now, he also talked about the ceasefire issue, which is a topic where some very interesting developments are happening. Let's get to the topic. Let's go with that.
Are both sides still respecting the ceasefire? I would say it's holding up well. Their army is destroyed. All of their navy is underwater, you know it. 158 ships have disappeared. Their navy has disappeared. Most of their mine layers have disappeared. We have a lot of people, as you know. Tomorrow at 10 o'clock, a blockade will take effect. It will be at 10 o'clock tomorrow. Other nations are working so that Iran can't sell oil, and that would be very effective. But what we want to do is and again, we don't need it. What we notice and what we see and what I think might be my idea, maybe not. I don't know, but there are a lot of ships coming to our country to fill up with oil and then leave and take it away. So they're not passing through the Strait of Hormuz. Ultimately, that will be corrected, but in the meantime, they're using us. We have more oil thanks to drilling. We have more oil than Russia and Saudi Arabia combined. So if you look at Russia and Saudi Arabia, two big ones, we have much more oil than them combined. And what's happening is that ships come here and fill up. However, we don't have to go through Hormuz.
The ships and not the hormones. Now check out this image, which obviously also draws attention among these latest reactions that have been happening. Well, obviously, a question that was necessary. Viktor Orban, in the end, well, the one who now loses, the president who loses the elections in Hungary. Precisely, even as he gets closer. J.D. Vance, as he gets closer, well, so the Trump administration loses even more points, and well, that means the opposition has a sweeping victory. Obviously, they asked him, and this was Donald Trump's reaction. Let's listen.
Very serious examiners, thank you very much, all right, and Michael Hanlon. Examiners.
Well, when they ask him about Viktor Orban, he says, okay, thank you very much. Goodbye, and he leaves. No, he never likes it. Never, ever. No, never, ever. They like to acknowledge a loss and then say goodbye. It's better to leave. It's better to leave after what happened. And well, that's it.
She even tried to use the tactic of, if Orban wins, we'll give Hungary some money, basically. Extortion. No, I don't even know how to say it anymore because it's something she also tried to do with the Millennial team at one point when there was a kind of midterm vote.
Loan.
She wanted to make a loan. Well, yes, she won that time, but she tried to do the same thing.
She tried to pull the same thing in Hungary, and well, obviously it didn't work out. The plan didn't work out. That's important too. And well, other matters, because we are really seeing this movement as very interesting. But before that, let me tell you about this image that has been circulating. That's what Southcom shows. This would have been yesterday, according to the reports. Another boat eliminated, a boat suspected of being involved in drug trafficking and was taken out with the missiles they fire. Well, yes, they simply don't ask, they don't check what's there, they just destroy it. It's also part of what's been happening because of the United States Armed Forces or Navy. That too. The thing is that here, the Coast Guard, the Navy, and Southcom, they've been attacking both the Caribbean and the Pacific. Where was it this time, or what was the situation?
Well, to begin with, 5 people lost their lives. This was reported by Southcom. It indicated that 2 vessels were in operation and were being operated by designated terrorist organizations. They report that they were traveling along the Eastern Pacific route and that they were carrying out drug trafficking operations. And well, they added that 1 person survived the attack on the first vessel since there were 2 vessels, and that they had 3 crew members and immediately notified the Coast Guard to activate the search and rescue system. The second vessel carried 3 people, all of whom died. In total, 5 died and 1 survived.
Well, that's part of what's happening now. Another thing that stands out is that there are developments in Peru. This is the message given by the JNE. Over there in Peru, there's an organization that's basically like the INE here in Mexico, so to speak. No, and it's an autonomous organization that administers justice in electoral matters, guaranteeing the vote. You all already know this. And well, this is the report they give about how things are going over there. Let's listen to it.
Good evening to everyone in Peru and to all the citizens of Peru. Tonight we want to state that the National Jury of Elections, as the governing body of the system and guarantor of the legality of the process, in view of the deficiencies that have occurred in the distribution of materials, under the responsibility of the National Office of Electoral Processes, OMPE, and with the aim of ensuring that no citizen is prevented from exercising the right to vote and to participate politically, the following agreement has been reached, which our Secretary General will now read.
The plenary of the National Jury of Elections, in the exercise of its powers, agrees. First, it is decided that regarding those polling stations in which the electoral materials did not arrive in Metropolitan Lima, and regarding 2 foreign constituencies, which are Orlando in Florida and Patterson in New York.
Well, part of what he's basically saying is that the matter is delayed a bit. Elections as a director in the deficiencies presented in distribution electoral office processes in view of the foreign constituencies, which in New York, foreign constituencies, York, in terms of attributions, it is agreed to arrange those tables in the Metropolitan, it is agreed. First of those tables where there is no, or boca de burro, I don't know what you call it, that when you leave the voting, well, people say, no, well, I voted for this, I voted for that. It's like exit polls, but this would be the first round. I mean, the 2 winners are the ones who will go to the next round. Second, elections in terms of responsibilities.
Do you remember? With 18.2% of tally sheets processed, Rafael Lopez would have 20.77%, Keiko Fujimori with 20.05%, and Jorge Nieto with 15 responsibilities. Do you remember?
And of course, especially the one who ends up in third place, well, they're going to say, hey, if it's just by a little point, obviously they're going to fight for it. They're going to fight for it, especially those who end up very, very, very close. So, well, there will possibly be challenges. And besides, it's not just about the presidency. I mean, mayors' offices are also at stake. They're competing for other things. So there will also be challenges because they'll say, hey, they didn't get things done on time here. It's just that this irregularity, let's say, looks like it's going to make things a bit more complicated. We'll see what happens. And it would also be great to hear the opinion of the Peruvians here.
Yes, because there are 63,000 people who couldn't vote, so that's a significant number that could actually change who makes it to the second round.
Especially since there's a tie. I mean, there are many who are very close. That's why they think there could be differences. So much so that with votes still left to count and also, well, you can already see that the exit polls show there's more or less a certain closeness among the voters. Well, obviously, it's logical that there could be, challenges and that kind of thing. We'll see what happens, but it's interesting. Obviously, let's move on to other matters because things in Iran are also getting intense. Let's go with that. In the last few hours, there has been a lot of movement, a massive movement. According to reports, a large amount of military transport in the United States is heading toward the Middle East. What's going on? Obviously, the concern here is that the war might spread. In the last few hours, there has been an unusual increase in U.S. military flights crossing Europe toward the Middle East. What's going on?
According to these air tracking platforms, multiple strategic transport aircraft are flying on simultaneous routes. This is quite unusual in normal times when there are no wars, and among the identified aircraft, the C-17 Globemaster and the KC-135 stand out, which are used for logistical deployment and in-flight refueling. And, well, the observed trajectories cross key countries in Western and Central Europe and reach a point close to the Middle East.
Judging by this coordinated movement, analysts say the scale of the deployment is significant and does not appear to be routine. It seems something imminent is developing. There has been no detailed official confirmation from the Pentagon about the objective. We know that there is nothing official. There is basically only information from FLIRADAR and similar sources that show something is happening.
And, well, however, the United States usually mobilizes resources in advance if conflicts are anticipated, something that had already been announced, well, as reported in the Washington Post, no, Wall Street Journal. Today, it warned that the United States could carry out new targeted attacks in Tehran.
According to the reports, decisions are already being made about the next targets to attack in case the conflict resumes on social media. There have also been comments, a lot of things like in certain parts of Europe, this movement is being seen, that here so much is being observed. There's a lot of speculation. I go with this piece of information that seems more accurate to me in the sense that at least the movement is happening. It could be. A bluff could be more like a show of strength, like saying, look at what's coming. It could be. I mean, in war and in love, they say anything goes. Well, in this matter, many times these moves are precisely to show strength, to show power, or to say this is what's coming. That could also be the case, but this time, I don't think so, because if Iran has shown anything, it's that they don't get scared by this kind of move. It doesn't surprise them, let's say, because they already know, they're watching and observing how these moves have played out. So I feel that actually the United States is making this move because they're really preparing for other military operations. What's happening is extremely costly. They've already spent $280 billion. They've lost 24 MQ-9s. I mean, they've even, the F-15s. We can talk about a lot of losses, let's say, not counting the human side, which is the hardest. I mean, the human losses on both sides are also tremendous, especially when thinking about the civilians. But also the soldiers, after all, are people too, and they also suffer and have families, so it's a really tough situation. No, obviously the fact that the regime is as terrible as it is, that the war is as terrible as it is, and that the United States has also attacked. But without having attacked it as supposedly a preventive measure, all those things are making the war become way too complicated. And in the face of these developments, the only thing that seems likely is that this conflict is going to drag on. And we're already seeing it in the reactions of the markets, where not only is it not going down, but there are already signs that, recession is already here. The recession is here since there's no growth. That's the situation. If it's going to extend, because if it does, then that's when big companies could start to collapse. And when big companies collapse, it's not just about the jobs lost at those big companies, but also that those companies often generate a lot of indirect employment globally. No, and then suddenly people can't imagine how one company went bankrupt, then another, and it just continues. To me, that's not the effect. It's like they say someone sneezes in China and someone else gets typhoid. No.
Pneumonia?
Pneumonia somewhere else in the world. No, I mean, it's very easy for all this to spread, not when it comes to a financial problem. And that's why right now we're going to talk a bit more about what China is doing, because China is making its own moves.
They're definitely playing three-dimensional chess.
They're playing three-dimensional chess because China's tendency is to wait for circumstances to play out. They might give things a little push too, but let's say that once the circumstances are in their favor, once the winds are favorable, that's when they act. And this move, a bit heavy-handed, or very heavy-handed, as many would say, by Donald Trump shows that. For Trump, this wasn't a strategy game. For Trump, it was more like a game of hiding his other troubles, trying to sweep the dust under the rug, but it wasn't an absolute necessity. Even Republicans are criticizing him for that. It wasn't an absolute necessity. Wars are only fought when there is an absolute necessity.
It's just that the same intelligence had mentioned it, the same one.
The same one.
Yes, that note.
Trump himself was critical of the moves made by, for example, George Bush Jr. when they went against Iraq and said, well, what about the weapons of mass destruction, right? And come on. He had been critical of those kinds of things, and now it turns out he does it himself, and in an even more, let's say, unjustified way. I insist the Iranian regime is terrible. It has many very harsh aspects, but there are things that can be solved with intelligence and not with wars, because wars involve exactly this. How do you get out of them afterwards? Intelligence. Look, it failed. I didn't go with the classic. It wasn't me. I didn't know who did it. I mean, let's go. That's the most common one, but a war with the military and everything. Well, you're not just risking people's lives. You're also playing with the pride of a country. They're going to see you as, oh, well, the one who lost a war that was supposed to last 2 days, but got complicated and lasted a month, and I had to back out. And if you get involved in it, it's even worse, right? I mean, in one of those cases, what happened to Vladimir Putin could happen to you, where he's been stuck in a war for 4 years and doesn't even know what to do. It's a huge issue, so...
But unlike the United States, he has used it for his economy, something that would be difficult for the United States to do. Yes.
Yes, that part is more complicated. Now, let's move on to other matters, because as we say, China is making its moves, as you said, like three-dimensional chess. Apparently, at least that's what's being attempted over there, and later we'll see how the Nikkei is doing, how China is doing, and how these countries are reacting to the markets. Because, well, it's not all about oil. Obviously, we're not going into detail.
Well, China moves quietly and has taken advantage of our lack of attention to the rest of the world. We're also focused on the Middle East, that they've established a key military base for the country's operations. Reportedly, Beijing has consolidated a new strategic position in the South China Sea, which is a highly contested area. They have transformed these reefs, which are basically just rocks, and turned them into an artificial island with capabilities. The Chinese military in the South China Sea near Vietnam has this artificial island, and well, China took advantage of the moment and created this place, a new position where they now have more than 50 facilities. Wow, besides a runway of approximately 2.7 kilometers, which is enough to operate military aircraft, they have already positioned themselves on the board.
But that island was already there. That island was already there. What stands out here is that they are expanding it, exactly. This island, well, we've already talked about it several times. The thing is that they're expanding it. Like you said, they're moving in the South China Sea. And not only are they moving, but now to the Philippine Coast Guard airplanes and helicopters, which are right there, and it's so clearly theirs, by the way. Now, when the Coast Guard helicopters pass by, they launch these, what do you call them, flares. Still, they're not going to shoot them down. It would be hard to shoot them down, but it still puts them in danger. In one of those cases, if the flare falls inside the helicopter, it can start a fire and you have to make an emergency landing right away. If not, well, you burn right there. We know it's not the right thing to do, but obviously throwing flares at helicopters. In this case, in the area of China, the South China Sea, they've been taking over islands, some that seemed forgotten, and suddenly they arrive, reinforce the area, and install 3 types of detectors to detect missiles. And this isn't. Or systems, radar systems. They install missiles. This time they even built a runway, not just any runway. I think it's about 3 kilometers long, so it's not just anything. And well, in the end, that's the conflict going on in this area. It's because of the following. In this area, about 80 to 90% of the world's internet cables pass through here. Or a large number of submarine cables pass through here. Most of the internet we all use flows through them. It all goes through here. But besides that, this area has oil and a lot of, let's say, interests, even related to fishing and so on. Fishermen from the Philippines usually come around here. Now they have to keep running away from the Chinese military in this area, and the Coast Guard has to go defend them. China's actions are causing problems, and that's what they're complaining about. Vietnam, as well as Malaysia, the Philippines, and other countries in the region are all voicing similar complaints. What they're complaining about is that China basically says, this is mine. Look, they just cut here, cut the map. All this part they say China is up here. China also has the right to its zone, to its area. Likewise, the Philippines has the right to 200 kilometers out. Vietnam as well. If you suddenly claim to have islands here, you start taking up space, and that's the problem they're facing now. But only when there are wars, when they're distracted. Well, before the war started, what caught my attention was what the United States was saying. Hey, US intelligence says that China has no intention of taking Taiwan until 2027 or maybe later. They're not going to do anything. For me, it was like that's the warning. So if they're saying it won't happen, it actually means it will. Well, it makes me think that either they're too distracted or something else is going on, because there are a lot of movements happening in front of Taiwan. They're constantly encircling Taiwan. They're constantly saying it's inevitable that we're going to take Taiwan. I mean, that's their point. It's over and there's no way to negotiate this. So, well, maybe it's just part of the rhetoric. Whatever you want, but it's something we can't rule out, especially right now, because look, Taiwan isn't being taken for a simple and straightforward reason. They produce 90% of the world's advanced chips, and without that, the economy would collapse. Not just China's, but the whole world's. I mean, especially the major powers, which are the ones that depend the most on these advanced chips. So, well, no, obviously China doesn't want to be blamed for causing the economy to collapse. So, but if the economy collapses for another reason, whether it's Iran or whatever, if it collapses for another reason, well, right away, I mean, they could just take it.
Yes, because if the attack happens, I mean, China would also be left without chips, right? Basically. And besides, we have to remember that Taiwan, the factories that make these chips, the most important ones, actually have a self-destruction mode. I mean, it would be really complicated to recover this quickly.
According to what they say, well, they've published it themselves, that they have a self-destruction mode so that nothing from the advanced chip factories can be operated and it would be moved to another region. They don't want to move because that's basically their defense, being innovative. Basically, that's not the point. But anyway, let's move on to other important matters. All right, the other important matters quickly. How is it, since we're in Asia, right? How are they reacting? How are the markets opening in Asia? Because there's this speculation or this idea that there could be a lot of nervousness tomorrow, Monday. Look, well, yes, even though it's true that Brent is high, it's above $100 at least. The Nikkei today didn't open in free fall like we might have thought, right? I mean, it's holding steady. Up, look, actually even higher, although it had a negative gap. I mean, because really on Friday, look, here's Friday, it closed up here. Today it opens a bit lower, but just a little. The gap is negative, but it's not much, and it's going to go up. So, well, Japan's Nikkei isn't doing too badly. How's this one doing? What's it called? Korea. South Korea. Sorry, let me add it here. South Korea is this. This is Friday. This is today, Monday. Yeah, it opened a bit lower to be exact. No, this is where it closed. That's not right now. I mean, it's not there. It's not good either, but it's not a free fall. I mean, it's a drop of 1.7%, but it's already recovering. So aside from the first few hours, let's say, of the markets being open, so it's still a drop, which is not something you want. But look where they're coming from. They were around here. So this, to stay on this path in this area, well, it's not that bad. Now, if later in the afternoon it closes over here or over here, then be careful, you know, red alert and China. How's the Shanghai stock market doing? Oh, look, it's about the same too. All three stock markets are behaving the same way. And it's very normal for the three markets to act similarly. And well, as for Hong Kong, no. Hong Kong already moved earlier. If they're going down like this, it's worse. Like this, it's a huge drop. Let's see, the drop is about 2% more or less, which is not a small thing for Hong Kong's economy. Asia almost always shows us what's going to happen, how Europe opened, how America will open, and so on. That's usually like a preview, especially when it's very serious, negative. It's something to worry about when it's serious, or let's say a drop of 1 or 2%, which is still significant but not serious. Well, maybe it doesn't have that much of an effect. We'll see. Let's see, because maybe tomorrow the S&P 500 will surprise us on the downside. Who knows? I mean, We have to remember that the S&P 500 in the last few days started to go up and up and up and up. I mean, it didn't do badly. I mean, the S&P 500, look, this is the S&P 500 from the last, let me see, 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7. All last week it went up. Let's go from here. Let's measure it quickly from here to around here, more or less. So in the last 7 days, it went up by 5%. So why? Because this is when people started talking about the negotiation and this and that. So it started to go up, it started to go up, it started to go up. The 500 most important companies in the United States. Let's see what happens. We're done watching.
In Indonesia, it's reported that the dollar skyrocketed to a historic level. We have to remember that Indonesia is already going through a tough time, just like several countries in the Pacific region. The issue with oil is affecting them a lot.
Well, that's how things are in the markets. We're talking a little about how they're going to start, but anyway, let's move on to other topics. Let's go to the comments while we analyze to see if there's another reaction.
Let's mention some reactions. Notice that in Iran, Mohammed Bagral, one of those who went to the negotiations today, sent a message to the United States saying that soon they will feel nostalgia when they see the network, when they remember gasoline in 4 or 5 hours. So that's what he predicts. Well, they're already warning that oil prices are going to skyrocket in the United States, and well, they're already starting with these threats. By the way, tomorrow, in case you were wondering, tomorrow at 7 in the evening, the King and Queen of the United Kingdom will arrive in the United States. And, they're going to spend the night there, and, the next day they'll have activities with Mr. Trump, who, is super excited.
Yes, he loves those meetings. He loves having tea with the king.
Yes.
Like this, pinky up. No, he loves all that stuff. I mean, but the interesting thing will be the message the king brings along. Because it's going to be a message, obviously discussed with the Prime Minister.
He's also giving a speech in Congress.
That's going to be the good one. That's the good one.
We'll need to watch to see what message he brings, right?
Yeah, especially because it would represent a moment in history. It would represent what he probably agreed on with this guy, this Starmer. I mean, it would basically be the message that the United Kingdom is sending. And surely also about diplomacy. No, I imagine. They don't say they did it. They just talk about the facts. There's nothing like that. He says, "How are you, Raul? Very good." My specialty, says Panterita. How was Panterita? Hello to the whole community. They're talking about grilled meat. That's what they're talking about over there. He says, Iran defends terrorists. Raul says, how are you, Raul? Hello. Greetings to the whole community. And look, the complicated thing here is that many people, especially some people, want to see things that way. Always wanting to see it as a melodrama, like a soap opera with good guys and bad guys. And here, unfortunately, there are a lot of people who have gone through terrible things. Not just this one, the same young people who were protesting there in Iran, but we also have to remember the effect this will have on the Gulf countries because of Iran's attacks, because right now we're talking about an exodus. It hasn't been properly calculated yet, but they're talking about an exodus that has started, although this could turn into a complete exodus of millions of people living in the Gulf, but who are now at least already thinking about what their next move will be, whether to return to their countries or to move to another country. But they're thinking about leaving because there's no expectation of what's going to happen. For example, will there be work in the tourism sector? For example, there are many people who went to live in the Middle East to teach, for example, English. Yes, because there are many people who want to speak English. Well, so many teachers are already thinking about what they're going to do because first, they don't feel safe, and second, they don't even know if they're going to have a job. But multiply that by a bunch of areas where right now they don't know if this is really going to be just a vacation, like they say, for 2 months or something.
There are a lot of people who make a living by selling apartments, not luxury apartments. So if you see that the market isn't selling, you have to get out of there.
Yes. I mean, it's inevitable, but even a lot of people, carpenters, electricians, construction workers, a lot of people in construction who are actually the ones building those luxury places, most of them are foreigners. Whether they're from Bangladesh, from India, from 1,000 different places, right? And all of them, after years of working there, have already made a life for themselves there. They earn well or whatever, but they're there. They're usually there out of necessity, not by choice, because there weren't enough jobs in their hometowns, so it's a big opportunity for them. But if that opportunity ends, well, that's just how it is. And you're talking about the fact that most of the residents in, for example, Dubai are foreigners. Yeah, so
It's like 70%. It's ridiculous.
it's over the top.
If a war happens, who will fight? They barely have citizens.
Exactly, no. So, how is the week ending for you? What are you expecting? What are your expectations for this Monday, April 13th? We're already seeing it. Half of the month is already gone. War began on February's last day. And even though right now we have a ceasefire, well, a pretty weak ceasefire, but at least there's a little bit of hope that they can talk. I mean, why do I say this? I'm watching it, doing it from a very optimistic point of view, trying to find the optimistic parts. It's the first time they've talked, at least officially, directly face to face. Reports say it's the first time since '79. I mean, there hadn't been a direct dialogue before. Now there is. And maybe for many people that won't mean anything. Yes, it does have a lot of meaning from a diplomatic point of view that they see each other face to face and talk directly, and at least he tries. Because look, even though the president of the Iranian Congress was very harsh in his comments, I saw again that there are more people who have sent a message that's a little less intense, like J.D. Vance, who also wasn't going too far with his comments. But what I think is going on with Trump is that he gets impatient when he sees the Strait of Hormuz closed. It still hasn't sunk in for him that that's a card. I mean, Trump says, he always talks about cards, right? He says the Iranians don't have any cards. The Ukrainians don't have any cards. Trump also said that somewhere. Well, they don't have cards, maybe they have other cards, but Ukraine is still there and keeps pushing the Russians back in many areas. They have also put Russian refineries inside Russia in check, among many other things. He says, well, I don't know if they have cards or not, maybe they don't, but the facts say otherwise. The same thing happens with in this case, maybe he doesn't want to see Hormuz, or that's just his communication style. Maybe he just pretends not to see it. But he knows very well that they have I think he does know, it's just that he likes to communicate that way. I mean, they have cards and they have one. Above all, the most important one of all, which is geography. I mean, geography is on this side at this point in favor of Iran. Very easy, I mean, the same ones. Yes. In other circumstances, the Arab countries would have done it. Whatever it took to shoot at Iran, why aren't they doing it? Because attacking Iran is very complicated. This whole area is full of mountains. If we get closer, it's full of mountains. Here we're talking about walls that aren't so easy to get through. We're not going to say, but on the other hand, here it's the opposite. There are no mountains, there are very few mountains, and actually everything is very flat and they're right next to the coast. So, what's easier than attacking refineries that literally explode on their own if you hit them? I mean, you don't need to do much. Honestly, it's not like that. One major issue for the Russians is their refineries and oil depots. And besides, every time they're hit, the same people from Velen, the ones from Qatar, say, look at this refinery. After being hit, it won't be fully operational for 3 years. This one takes 4 years. I'm unsure about the other. I mean, besides, it goes through a long healing process, let's put it that way, which is also a problem.
Exactly. In fact, the team from Italy and I think from Saudi Arabia already went to see how they could help speed up this process of restoring the facilities because, well, yes, it's complex and also takes a very long time.
Cuban says, if there was a Trump, I would have finished off the narcos. No, my friend, it's not like that. I don't know where you're from. I imagine you're from Cuba. Clearly, well, you don't know about this topic, but look, to begin with, then he would have finished off the narcos in the United States who are like this. Look, like this. Actually, one of Mexico's main narcos is currently from the United States. So, I mean, just to make it clear that they already have a lot and they don't stop them. They keep doing their thing over there just the same. Where do you think the money is laundered? Do you really think it's here in Mexico? Well, no, it's the financial system in the United States and the banks over there and in Europe. Obviously, I mean, it's out of ignorance, but I'm sending you a big hello. The man, well, if that were the case, no, this person has zero ability there. He says, just imagine the United States with hyperinflation. The global effect would have to be no, no, no. It would be something crazy. No, 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 no. And honestly, politicians dance around that word. No, no, they don't even like to hear it mentioned. The word hyperinflation as well, it really scares them.
Greetings to David and to us as well. It says Iran still has ballistic missiles and drones as well for its production. The only thing is that Ukraine with several types of drones and its national system like the Flamingo. Greetings.
Greetings, you say? The idea is crazy. Of course, I wasn't going to support that nonsense. Who would support it?
If not, no, it's never served. It's classic.
It's not just black or white or one way or the other. That's not how things work, my friend. This one, no, no, we're not going to have a serious conversation. I send you a big greeting. He says that. He does say that if it's a benefit, they don't do anything to them like what happens with... Hey, exactly. Well, what we've been told from over there in Venezuela, Venezuelan friends, this is tremendous. They say what they see inside is that he's positioning himself. He is, basically, to stay. I mean, she's betting on being the next Maduro and staying as long as possible. Today they discussed if the national team will play, the elections, whether they'll happen or not, or if they'll be tomorrow. Either way, they say the elections are always stolen, so those in power stay forever. It's tremendous. Henry, how have you been? Hi, I'm surprised by some lunatics giving empty opinions. Thank you very much, Henry. Thank you so much. And how have you been? Thanks also for your comments, for the information you've sent me and all that. I appreciate it.
He says, I always had that question because nothing ever happens to those people. I don't understand which people, the people who launder money. I mean, all the letters in the United States.
No. White-collar crime is off limits. I mean, white-collar criminals are untouchable. Unless it's something way too scandalous, way too big. So they go and catch just one person, they don't take down the whole network, and the network keeps operating. But does it have to be something extremely scandalous like that crypto case? Do you remember?
No.
No, you know who I mean, the one who went to the island, who went to live on an island.
Bankman?
That's right, Sam, right? Well, Bankman, this guy you say stole billions of dollars and just recently they were already forgiving him. You say, how is that possible?
They forgave him, didn't they?
The Bankman guy, well, they didn't do anything to him at all. I mean, let's get to this. And those operators are exactly the ones who move things. And that's where the money goes, here and there. I mean, there isn't, and that's what gives life to drug trafficking groups around the world in general. How do they buy weapons? With money. And how do they finance themselves? Where does that money come from? How does it move? Obviously, through the financial systems. So, the solution is actually known. We have the solution. The problem is that it's not being done or the solution isn't being implemented. And that's what we're talking about. And there we're talking about governments, institutions, you know. For example, Haiti. Everyone knows what the problem is. Everyone knows who the problem is. There's no doubt. There's no doubt that it's this. These gangs, they're right here, but nobody does anything about it. Nobody does anything. No one steps in decisively and says, we're going in and taking action. Let's see, can we reach an agreement with you? Yes or no? No. Well, then you already know what the next step is, which is to go in to free the people because the people are there. Well, they're just there, honestly, in a really strange void. In a limbo where, honestly, nobody cares. Not the UN, not the United States, not Europe, nobody. Everyone has an opinion. Everyone says, I'm talking about those in power, but honestly, nothing gets done. There's no action. It doesn't go any further.
No, for example, the weapons issue is another major topic affecting Mexico that originates in the United States. And in Brazil, about 2 days ago, they seized 1,100 weapons that were coming from the United States. How do they make it all the way to Brazil, and how do weapons reach there? How do they allow this to happen?
Exactly, right? Well, the thing here is that you can't just wait for the solution to come from a foreign country. Countries have to do their part because if they don't, this isn't going to work. And well, I do think we need to improve the conversation here because look, for example, when you guys just say goodbye, honestly, you just leave comments and that's it. Goodbye, that's not fair. We have to be serious when we're talking because if not, then the conversation falls apart and the enjoyment of talking is lost. That's not it, Cristobal, but greetings. Also, greetings to Martin and Raul. How have you been? Big greetings, he says in Brazil they need to change the government, says Mariano Tejas. Mariano, the thing is there are no options. I mean, that's the problem there, right? Greetings, Mariano. Good to see you. Dieguito, how have you been? Greetings.
Greetings to Jose Prado, he says. I'm heading towards 63, but I feel 40.
That's great.
That's the attitude.
Congratulations, greetings. Happy birthday.
0, 5, yes, 5, January, February, March, April, yes, 5, reach 7. I mean, good, really good birthday. It's late. Greetings. Also, Ruben Williams says the markets are all up. He says, greetings, very good.
Ruben, how have you been? Regarding oil?
Yes, yes.
Yes, Pepe says Karina has to come in before November since Trump won't have as much strength. His actions already together.
But Trump is going to be president of Venezuela, I say.
It's this one. Greetings, Dad, from Nueva. Let's see what happens. But in the case of, for example, let's see Venezuela, I think it's also going to take a lot of patience, right? And there are several problems like that out there, right? I mean, it doesn't make sense to try to rush things right now. About Venezuela, I think people know that too. I mean, people haven't forgotten who the ones in power are right now, right? But also, I imagine there's some exhaustion too, right?
You saw it the other day, right? During those protests, people seemed very upset and unafraid of the police.
Yes, no, not at all. He says, greetings. He says President Salvador was able to handle the criminal gangs, he says.
It's a very small country.
Raul, yes, it's small, but it's good he could do it. He says the best part of a program is sharing your opinion freely. If it bothers you, scratch yourself, I don't care. Stupidity is believing you're right about something so uncertain. Nothing is certain, says Martin. Huge shout out, Martin. How have you been? Thank you very much for the comment and exactly very good point, huh? He says the bad thing is that in Brazil, the other option is Bolsonaro, and for that, nothing at all would be better. Exactly because of that. Totally.
He says, greetings, says Rubenville in the Nigerian police forces that they weren't from Nigeria, they weren't from where the runners are from. What are they called? Kenya. They were from Kenya as far as I know. And they were sent to Haiti and they left due to lack of security. Yes, actually, if I remember correctly, they lost several soldiers. Yes. It's just that they haven't been able to, the situation remains the same.
And those Kenyan troops, well, they were experts. They had already been in other war zones over in Africa, sent by the UN itself. Or, I mean, they knew how to operate in urban warfare and still, right? I mean, well, some of them came back, but unfortunately, yes, it's just that things are really crazy over there too. These groups, because there are several, right now the most visible leader is this guy, Cherizier. What's his name?
Yes, Barbecue Cherizier. You know, they've tried to catch him with drones, and no, they just can't. No. They're those kinds of people who are really dangerous because they manage to bring different groups together in the middle of the chaos, and that's really complicated.
And they're, let's say, not just wild, they're absolutely wild. It's a whole other level of craziness, right? This is intense, says Pepe. He asks, in which month will the recession arrive? That's what Olga says.
Hopefully never?
Well, hopefully never. I mean, if there's a long period of no growth in an area, in a country.
Because some say 1 quarter and others say something else.
Exactly. I mean, there are countries that say, well, if it's 2 quarters or 3 quarters, it varies. So we'll have to see how each country considers it. But what you can see is that if this continues like this, there would be no growth, but only until the end of the year. I mean, it's not enough to be considered a recession. Now, the problem is when it's not just a recession, the problem isn't that, but rather that something happens suddenly, more like a shock, like what happened in 2008. Now, in 2008, I don't know if the same thing happened in other parts of Latin America, but it was a crisis that hit a specific sector really hard, which was the real estate sector. And let's say that part also, well, yes, it was striking that it didn't have the effect that was expected in other countries, right? Hey, greetings! How have you been? Isa Ibarra, awesome. Thank you so much for the super chat. Robert Fry says Mexico is a failed state. Robert Fry says, well, that's Trump's narrative. Maybe if you believe in that narrative, well, that's for you, right? But that's also speaking from total ignorance, right? That's basically what it is, isn't it? Sending you greetings.
Greetings to Francisco Arce, who says El Salvador has an area of about 21,000 square kilometers, which is similar to the size of the state of Hidalgo here in Mexico.
Greetings. Just imagine, right? Controlling it is a piece of cake, isn't it? Obviously, right? It's not the same as controlling, well, like the United States, right? Well, just imagine the security problem they have in the United States. It's really tough. Or the one they have in Colombia, or the one they have in Venezuela. I mean, come on. In Brazil too, by the way, right? It's really serious there as well. Well, why? Well, just imagine what Brazil is like, a huge country, also full of different types, groups, and so on and so on. It's a huge problem. Controlling a small country with a coast on one side and a coast on the other side, well, it's relatively easy to achieve. Now, it couldn't be achieved for a simple reason. There wasn't a state that was willing to act, and that's often the problem here in Mexico, right? There hasn't been a willingness to act. I mean, right now we're seeing something different, but I don't know. It's not clear to me if it's because of pressure from the United States or because the Mexican president really said, no, well, that's how it has to be. But let's see, even Marco Rubio himself acknowledged that the country that collaborates the most on the issue of trafficking is Mexico in the world. That was said by Marco Rubio. We showed the video here. I mean, let's see, in that sense, that's why there's a lot of ignorance when people suddenly comment on those kinds of things because they say one thing. It's one thing to want to follow Trump's narrative as if it were reality. But even within his own government, they report with concrete data and present a reality that's completely different from what Trump says. Trump says crazy things, but just look at the reports from, well, the chief of staff at the Pentagon, who is usually the one who gives the most concrete and accurate information about the real data of what's happening in the war. Because if you go by what Trump says, well, that's a totally different reality. The same goes for the economy, so who do you have to listen to? With the Fed, you have to go to the Secretary of the Economy, Secretary of Commerce, etc. That's the point. Pepe says, if you shop on Amazon, product prices have gone up from 85 to 126. Others go down because they don't sell, they need to pay for financing, but interest rates are still low. What happens if shipping costs go up? He says, good question, Martin. I mean, just imagine if, well, they were telling us today from Argentina, right? That gas prices have been going up over there in the United States. Well, we're seeing that too. Logically, for me, it's
Tomorrow?
that we're going to have a price increase. Of course,
Because if it goes up, everything goes up. Everything basically, right? If oil prices go up, then the cost of transporting food goes up. Transporting everything, I mean, everything will go up. Acknowledge if the price remains unchanged. Yes, Perla says, Pepe, could you simply explain what a financial crash is? Like if the stock market suddenly collapses, what would happen afterwards?
let's discuss that now, Perla. But first, I want to read this comment. In El Salvador, it's a narco piece, and don't forget he negotiated with more criminals, which has been well documented, right? I mean, but isn't it? Let's see. I feel like it doesn't matter. First, you have to achieve peace. So if you have to negotiate, you have to negotiate. I mean, no, you're not going to negotiate so they can do whatever they want. Not at all. It's more like saying, look, the power of the state is going to step in and there's going to be a war. People from both our sides and all sides are going to die, right? But you have to negotiate the terms first, how things are going to be done from now on. What happens in Japan also occurs in New Zealand and many other places worldwide. It's not that there aren't criminals in China, in Japan, in Korea, in New Zealand. That's also well documented. How do they operate? Well, they operate. I mean, let's see how. And this one, they have agreements where even when there's going to be a fight, in fact, when there are going to be meetings between the leaders, the government lets them know there will be meetings and this is going to happen, this is going to happen. And then the government gets ready in case there's any disruption, any risky situation, and so on. The same thing has happened in New Zealand, for example. We talked about it here some time ago. Like these groups, biker gangs are the ones in charge of the black market, of drugs, and they're biker gangs. Just like in other years, well, still, right? But now they're more about just going out for a ride, right? But over there are still groups that are involved in organized crime, and they use motorcycles. But in the report we saw, they showed their lives, and they get home with the motorcycles and everything. But they have their wives, they have their daughters in school. They have a normal life, and then later they go out on their motorcycles to do their operations, let's say, right? And they don't bother anyone. It's not like they're out there bothering the neighbors or people. No. They have their agreements so that no one bothers them, and they also try not to cross certain lines that they have about what can and can't be done. What I'm getting at is that
¿Se hacen acuerdos el problema?
there's a lack of control that just got out of hand. It really got out of hand, right? it got out of hand because too many weapons came in from the United States and other countries, right? Not just the United States, there are weapons from Germany, there are weapons from other places, even Russian ones. So, yeah, there's a huge issue there too, right? And I talk with friends from Argentina, for example, when things got tough there around 2000. What year would that be? Around 2010, more or less, yeah. Well, actually, they weren't just friends, they were the landlords, right? The ones who rented us a house, an apartment in Argentina, do you remember?
Oh, yes.
They rented us a house they owned, Argentinians who had lived in Mexico for 20 years. After experiencing the insecurity, they said, you know what? The insecurity in Mexico is getting really bad. We're going to move to Argentina, right? And they went back to Argentina, but after a month, they were already back here. After a month, they were already back here. When insecurity in Mexico was really terrible, around 2010, 2011, around that time, after a month, they had already come back because they got there and had the bad luck of being robbed on the very first day. They had never been robbed here. I mean, nothing had ever happened to them, but they left because of the fear from the media, from everything they were seeing in the media. They leave, they get robbed in Argentina on day one, and after a month, they came back, right? I'm not saying things are worse in Argentina. I'm not saying that at all. I'm saying your perspective shapes how you tell the story, right? I also have a friend who went to Florida. I've talked about this before. He also went to Florida, and she had never been robbed in Mexico, but after arriving in Florida as a tourist and checking into her hotel, she was. At the club and outside, he and his friends were robbed at gunpoint. I insist, you know. What I'm trying to say is that not everything is what you see on TV, what you see in the media, and it's also a lot about history, and also, where do you go?
Also,
I mean, that's the thing.
yes, for example, there's a story, a video that went viral about 2 or 3 weeks ago, I think, about a guy, a tourist from the United Kingdom. I don't remember exactly, but a typical tall, giant, white guy, right? In Japan, and he was walking around in an area that wasn't touristy over there in Japan. And two people approach him, two Japanese guys wearing tank tops, super tattooed. Well, if you know a little bit about the history of Japan, you know they're gangsters because only they have tattoos like that. And he asked them to take a picture of him, and they are super nice. They help him pose, take the picture, and give everything back to him. But you say, I mean, since they know how to respect us, right? Here in Tepito, I don't know if I would dare to ask someone to take a picture. Yeah, if they look shady with the look here, I don't know. I just don't know.
No gun here. People don't carry them around.
Yeah, honestly, I never went around those areas. Greetings to Fabiana, who says, good evening, Pepe. Greetings from Chile over here, crying everything we lost and those who won in record time cast. It leads us to made-up inflation and from there to stagflation, she says. And Fabiana?
Greetings, Fabiana. How have you been? I mean, how do you see things going forward? So, do you think there really will be stagflation, or what are you seeing? I mean, on a day-to-day basis, right? I mean, are prices going up? What's happening? Or is there some kind of, what do they call it? Like, is it a supply chain shortage that's causing problems, or what's the day-to-day issue, right? That would be the question. Perla was just asking.
Yes.
Like, how would it be, I mean, for it to be considered a crash, right? We're talking about in the markets, if we look at it here on the chart and we can go there. Let's see if it gives me the chance to go all the way back to 2008 to see the movement. I mean, how the S&P 500 did maybe in 2008. I don't know if I can go all the way back to see what a crash looks like on the chart, right? I mean, or even, although it wasn't considered a crash, but when the pandemic happened, I mean, that could be it. But let's see. Let me check if it lets me go back to 2000. Yes, it does. Yeah, it lets me go back to 2008. Let's see how it looks. Look, here it is. Let's put it on the screen here. I don't know if you're noticing it, but here's the drop, right? Let's put it up. There's the drop. This is a crash. That's what it looks like, right? Notice how it started in 2007, where prices were in 2007, and how they started to fall and kept falling and falling from 2000. Let's first look at it from a slightly longer perspective, okay? In 2007, they were at $1,562 per share, let's say. And in 2008, let's see, hold on a second. November 2008, it had dropped to about $700. So just imagine the drop. And I'm not even counting 2009, so I don't take up all that time. But look, here's one step in the collapse, and here's another. For it to be considered a crash, it would be about 20%, right? I mean, a drop of 20% in a short period of time, right? Yes, quickly, but here it's about it happening within a year. That's why it's said that it was a very serious crisis. The one in 2008, which actually started in 2007. It didn't start in 2008, it started in 2007. Got worse in 2008, and in 2009 it began to recover, but it took almost until 2013. It was around then that the economy reached the same levels as in 2007, meaning it took years to recover what was lost. If you look at the very long term, then you didn't really feel it. I mean, let's say you invested in 2000, just imagine looking at the chart here, you invested here, you bought shares here, and from this point on, you were in 2007, November 2007, from this point on, it was all losses. You look at your numbers and they're in the red, 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 and the years go by. Look, we're talking about 2012 here and you're still at a loss. Here's the price you bought at, and here, all these years, you're at a loss. Starting from 2013. It shoots up and 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 shoots up, and it keeps going and going and going, and notice that there's a drop. I imagine this is the one from the pandemic. No, this isn't from the pandemic. This must be from the same war with Iran, but from June. It must be that. No, it's not June. Look, this is in April. What happened in April? I know, the tariffs, yes, there it is. This is the huge drop. This is, well, that's almost a crash. Look, I mean, how much was lost there? I mean, that was organized by Trump himself, by the way, 21%, so we could consider that a crash just in this one. Since people knew it was a temporary reaction, I'm getting confused with this line. Let's see. Let's measure it again. It's from here to the lowest point, 21%. Yeah, look, I didn't even remember this drop. It was really fast, huh? I mean, the rise was really fast and it recovered immediately. When you know what happens, why isn't it considered a crash? Because he backed down, remember? He backed down. In just a few days, it had already recovered the same price and kept going up because it started making announcements that were favorable for the economy. But what if we go back to 2000? I mean, if you invested in 2007, 2008, 2009, 2010, 2011, 2013 for 5 years and you were just starting to see profits, if you invested in what's supposed to be safe, the S&P 500, if you had the patience to wait another 5 years, I mean 10 years up to 2022, then yes, your profit really skyrocketed over 20-something%. I mean, it went up impressively. But you have to wait. I mean, you have to hold on, like all the people who bought in 2007. And they sold at a loss. They sold in the following 5 years. If they waited from year 5 onward, then they made a profit. They went up. So, if you look at 2007, it didn't drop 20% from 2007 to 2008. We were just seeing a huge, impressive percentage. So, would that be a serious economic problem? I mean, did something happen to someone in 2008? I mean, I'm sure there were people who did. What happened to them? Did someone go through something tough? Did they lose their job over it? I feel like I've asked about it and I've asked about it. I feel like it didn't hit as hard in other countries. I mean, even though they say everything spreads and all that stuff, I didn't feel it. Unless you're an investor or you have a house in the United States specifically and you're deeply in debt and can't pay. In that case, it did hit you because prices went up. Everything just spiraled from there.
But yes, the other day I was reading a CNN article about something they call ghost mortgages, which is something that's going on. Since 2008, there were companies that lent money and then went bankrupt, disappeared, so the person no longer received the bill, there was nowhere to pay, and now they're back. And with all that interest, just imagine since 2008,
they added up all the interest and said,
you owe me, and now they suddenly decided to come after you. So there are people who say, hey, now I'm going to lose my house because the charges got outrageous, but there was never anyone who called me. There was never a place where I could pay. I mean, it's terrible. They make those things up in the United States.
I don't know. You didn't know that?
Says Dieguito. Oh, Pepe, 2 weeks ago I traveled for work to Arkansas and from there to Chicago. No, man, that's nothing compared to what I saw. Besides, notice that people are already very used to it.
I mean...
Like crime, you mean? Are you referring to crime when you say Risca?
In Arkansas, they are.
Where Chicago, Arkansas, and Chicago?
It was either Arkansas, Chicago, or Chicago, Arkansas.
Went to Arkansas for work and from there to Chicago.
And where did he see the problem?
Well, I don't know. Let's see what he tells us. Let's see.
Where did you see the rock?
It was in 2 places, right? Greetings, Ezekiel Cardona. How are you?
I want to take my kids to Chicago, to the museums, but that's it. I mean, my stepfather lives there.
Yeah, he tells us that it's bad.
He tells us that it's really bad. Yeah, really tough.
We don't know how bad it is. It's exaggerated.
Exactly, but I also mean he's a bit older, and so maybe he's right.
If he goes downtown, he goes very early.
He tends to exaggerate a bit about the whole insecurity thing and all that, so...
We think,
Yeah, maybe not, right? I mean, nothing has ever happened to him, but there might be things he's seen.
in both, honestly and strongly. Totally. Thank you, son, for the tip.
Thank you, son, for the info.
And Wales all night? What do you mean, Wales? What's that, son? What are you talking about?
Tell us, how was that?
All the gossip. Greetings to Marilena. How are you, Marilena? Greetings to your children, Arturo and Daniela, and congratulations to them for today's information. The world is vast, and only a few presidents harm their own countries, but some can harm the entire world, which is the worst. Yes.
That's the thing. Greetings to Marilena all the way to Puebla, and of course, greetings to Arturo and Daniela, obviously. Thank you all very much. And, well, yes, it's intense, by the way. Greetings to Claudio. I don't know if he's listening to us, but it's been a while since I've seen him around here. Greetings to Claudio, and to Estrelita as well, if you're watching us too. Dieguito Walter, a big shout out to Daddy Ezekiel. How have you been? Very good. Greetings.
Greetings to Italo, who did the chili thing, everything in his life here. And this cast government can't do much since Boric's government stole everything, so this government doesn't have much to do. Just hang in there. And Fabiana says, crime has noticeably increased, and in Chile too. Okay, the corruption of senior officials? I don't see any solution except for protest and demonstration.
I'm throwing it out there now. That's intense. Greetings.
Greetings.
Andy says hello. How have you been? Greetings from New Jersey. Greetings to Andy Quintanilla. A big shout out to Cleo Bases. How have you been? Very good. Regards, Cleo says. Kokora says, these people have many things, but they don't have cartels that take over a city or state like in Mexico or the United States. They never allow that and never will. Ask Bukli. He says we must go, but what does he have to do with the United States? Look, Kokora, yes, they do have them. They do have cities that are full of drug traffickers, full of gangs. That's just the reality. That's what is known, what's happening, right? And believing otherwise just means you don't know Detroit, for example, right? I mean, it's pretty serious, right? The same goes for Chicago, right? What they're telling us right now, right? I mean, my stepfather lives in Chicago, you know? And he tells us some crazy things. Shootouts in broad daylight on the streets, really serious stuff. Just look, right? Because, I mean, all that information about those crazy things is out there, right? So, I mean, if we go by that logic, then I would say in Mexico there aren't any school shootings, right? How many are there in the United States? People will judge based on their own outside perspective, right? And, well, there will always be negative things in other countries, right? I mean, that's a reality that sometimes people don't want to see, right? So let's be self-critical. Serious things happen in Mexico just like they do in the United States and in other countries, right? But I think it's different, or that it's more like that here. It's very hard to measure that, I'm telling you, at least here where I live, right? I mean, I'm telling you from my experience, everything I experience is totally peaceful, day or night, at any time. That's just how it is, right? I mean, we go to the park, and today we spent the whole day at the park without any problem, right? Here, Amazon packages get left out or even tossed into the street and nobody ever takes them. That's just how it is, right? I mean, there is this Trump-like narrative that a lot of people believe, right? It's incredible, he says. MTK. He says you have to get information from people who live there, who know people from there. Going to Chicago must be great. Going to the museums. Yes, or are you telling me to go to Chicago? Yes, exactly. I mean, I think maybe the tourist areas are calm, right? But you, the ones who live in Chicago, tell us, how do you see it? Because we would like to take the kids to the museums. We, Astrio, have already been to the museums in Chicago. Not all of them, but several of the most important ones. And it's amazing. Really, it's truly an experience. I mean, it really is an experience. So, I mean, if you have the chance, go check them out.
Says Chris. And a comment. Here in Utah, there are already problems with gangs, shootings, drugs, etc. everywhere, even in very nice and expensive neighborhoods. They often dismantle labs.
That's what Chris says. I mean, someone who lives there, and plus it's a state that's much safer than probably most other states, right? So, greetings, Chris. Thanks for the info, he says. There's crime all over the world. He says Boston has an area called Mattapan, and it's dangerous, dangerous, says Jorge, and that's Boston.
Which is like super fancy.
A city like that? Well, nice. A pretty college town. Yes, yes, exactly. Yeah, no, I mean, honestly, every place has its areas, right? Yeah, of course there are problems, and suddenly what's going to come out in the media? It's going to be that something happened in Michoacan. I don't know what, it's the same. And then what about this? Do they hold a sports event or set a record for the world's largest guacamole like the other day? You're not going to see that in the international media. What you're going to see are the most terrible news stories, the worst, the ugliest ones. Yes, those things happened, and we've discussed the missing people in the United States, right? You're talking about the missing people from Mexico. We've also talked about those from the United States, from Mexico. Yes, we've talked about them a lot.
Greetings to Dad again, who says, Shaimito, why are you late? Well, a man lost a bill. Oh, and did you help him look for it? No, I was stepping on it so that he would leave.
But he would leave.
But he wasn't leaving.
He says,
Bad accountant?
Bad accountant. Shout out to the new dad here. Thank you so much for your jokes, for your phrases, by the way. Always great, he says. The government hasn't even been bought off by the cartels, as you say in Mexico. Oh, well, that's awesome then. Excellent. Really good. Greetings, says Boston. Is that okay? Strawberry, without talking back, without talking back, without talking back.
Buxo sin bolsilla?
Cheers.
Delicious.
Good name, he says. Yesterday I watched a documentary about the disappeared in Mexico. Thousands are missing and police and political corruption block investigations. It's horrible. The issue of the disappeared, well, it's a topic, I insist, that happens in many places, and unfortunately there's very little sensitivity about it, right? Because yes,
the government turns a blind eye. The other day, the president got angry and said that those measures, those numbers that the UN was reporting, the UN, that it was a lie, I don't know what, and well...
And it's just that, I mean, you have to provide clarity, not just to Mexico, but first to Mexico, right? But you also have to provide clarity to the world. I mean, say, look, come and let's talk and let's investigate together. I mean, if you have nothing to hide, right? Well, today bring them here. Well, they showed a video from when Andrés Manuel López Obrador was campaigning, right? Where he said, we are going to invite the UN to come here to look for the missing people and all that. So where are they? I mean, where is the UN? The UN should be here. I mean, if they really want to provide certainty. The problem is when we don't want to see the problem, right? Not seeing the problem is different from insisting everything else is wrong. If we follow Trump's narrative, everything is wrong, but that's not true, is it? Totally. But also not seeing the problem means not addressing it. The problem exists, not the one Trump says, but there is a serious problem, right? What Trump says is an exaggeration. Like everything he does, he exaggerates everything. Either everything is absolutely perfect or everything is completely wrong. One day he says Mexico is doing the most. One day he says Mexico. So neither one is a lie. I mean, but there is a problem and it has to be addressed clearly, right? That's well, you have to start by acknowledging it, by recognizing the problem, right? Because if you don't recognize it, how are you going to fix it, right? If you don't even want to be helped, so to speak, right? He says disappearances are related to human trafficking and also disappearances, especially affecting a lot of people from very poor backgrounds, right? They want to take them away because in the end, it's not that easy for people to just want out of their own will to get involved in those things. So what happens sometimes is that they take people by force, and out of several, maybe one they convinced, they take them, and the rest they eliminate. Or do they also fight among themselves and then make some people disappear? It's complex with many things happening, very interesting, shocking, and terrible. But it shows us that the issue of disappearances is not something that's going to disappear. I mean, this issue is going to stay here. To begin with, because the mothers and families and organizations are there, constantly giving information about how everything is, and the mothers and fathers too. It's really brave to be there, isn't it? It says here below, I read everything. It says, Gabriel, how are you, Gabriel? Good health to you too, says Felix, but is the first one obsolete or not? Yes, I get what you're saying, Felix, and you're absolutely right. There are obsolete things, but also things worth saving. It's not just black and white. We're back to the same point. I mean, you have some really bad things, but you also have things that are necessary. For example, the issue of the OAS, the issue of the WHO, which you have. There's an urgent need to communicate well when there are problems with this virus or disease. I mean, there have to be protocols that connect one country with another when there are problems, and even then there will be flaws, and even then there will be problems. But at least there has to be something that, well, right now isn't perfect, but having that is better than having nothing. With disappearances, it's mainly about providing certainty, basically seeing if I'm open. Let the OAS come, let other international organizations come, and let's show up and start talking and saying what's happening. Is this it? Let's see. We've already seen, we've already observed, we've already talked with all the parties. We've already realized that this is a problem and addressing it, that's the point, says Pepe. The UN sends it, Trump sends it, says Gilberto. How are you, Gilberto? Greetings, says Marcela. How have you been? Greetings, Barry. How have you been? Big greetings, says Pepe. How is the conflict developing? That's how it's written. Afterwards, both bears, China and Russia, and then they fight each other. Greetings, Clement. Thanks for commenting, Onu Gilberto. Greetings to Ofe too. Hope you've all been well. Have a lovely night too.
Just to see how things are going. Peru, Rafael Lopez Alianza, 19.45, and Keiko, 17.54, and in third place, Jorge Nieto, with 15.21. They remain the same.
Almost the same.
Rafael dropped a little. He had 20.
At the same percentages. But well, if they're going to be that close. The logical thing is that if they're this close, it'll come down to counting vote by vote. The usual. They'll probably still disagree, and there will likely be legal disputes. Friends in Peru, how are you doing? I mean, really leave your comment down below if you watch this video later. I would really love to know your opinions. To start with, what do you think about the candidates? I know you might have your own biases for one or the other, but what do you think? I mean, how do you see them? It would be really interesting to explore that topic. Peru, despite the political instability, is showing good growth. Well, it's kind of like what happens in Mexico. People can say whatever they want about insecurity and whatever else. But you also have to look at the growth the country has had. And I mean, there are also some pretty positive things. For those who I think are here, or those who live in the areas that have at least been prospering, well, that part is also very visible, right? So,
Greetings, Panterita.
Greetings, Panterita. How have you been? As they say, not everything is black and white. There are many things to analyze, and we're very happy to do that here. What we need to analyze now is going to be, ¿cuál? What will the Strait of Hormuz look like in the morning? I think from what I see right now, it's going to start off closed to begin with, closed.
Double closed. It ended up even crazier. Closed on top of closed.
From now on, what time is it?
What is it? Tomorrow, right?
At 10 in the morning, but just imagine what time zone.
Already? In what time zone? I'm not sure. The other one isn't clear.
Nothing. I think he did leave it. I think he did put it there, right? I think so, but let's see. It's 8 in the morning, so in 2 more hours, in theory, from what I understand, I don't know, it's going to be closed. Let's see. Let's check this out. What?
Greetings to Marcela Riquelme and Fidel Botello. How are you, Marcela?
Greetings. How have you been? Good morning. Yes. I think that's Eastern time in the United States, so it would be 8 in the morning for us, right? So it would be 8 in the morning, Mexico time, Mexico City time, 10 in the morning, Eastern time. Apparently that's it. So, well, yes, it would be in theory in our morning, you know. I mean, the next broadcast we do, most likely
We'll know how the
thing is going. We'll be watching how things are going. If they close the Strait of Hormuz, the Red Sea will basically be closed. I mean, this strait will be closed. By the way, today there was an alleged attack on a cargo ship by the Houthis. Watch out for that issue because in the end it would be a double play. I mean, shutting down the oil and shutting down, 20% of the world's oil plus 20-something% of the gas. I don't know what percent of the helium and aluminum. I don't know. All of this here on the side, a fifth or 20% of the world economy goes through here between Europe and Asia. And it's not like the economy is going to stop because of that. I mean, it's not. It's just that they won't go through here anymore. They'll have to go all the way around to South Africa, the ships, or go up north, let's say. and pass through here through the Mediterranean Sea or go through the North Sea. Over here on this side or through the English Channel over here on this side. So all of that is going to have to be done, which increases, let's say, the supply chain time. It increases it by 10 to 20 days depending on which area it's going to. Obviously, an extra 10 to 20 days is a very high cost to pay for those 10 to 20 days. More gas, more food, more pay for all the workers, more time with the ship running. I mean, all of that has a cost.
And they're really fed up. They're stuck there in the strait.
Just imagine.
Bien hartos.
Looks like it'll be a busy week, just like Mauro said.
Absolutely, you already know. We'll be giving you the latest updates from the live shows right here so you don't miss out. Awesome.
Well, have an excellent start to your week, right? And, well, we'll keep talking.
Hope you're doing great. Once again, WhatsApp is here for you, and we're also on Facebook. Excellent, awesome.
Hope you're doing well. See you tomorrow. We interrupt your regular programming. Thank you for tuning in to The Truth. This is Pepe Live.
The truth is intense. The unusual is real. We analyze it here. Global perspective. Don't miss out. Tune into the Pepe and Vivo channel with Pepe and Astrid running the feed and telling it like it is. Raw journalism, here it's respected. Turn on alerts and stay tuned until next time. Yes, sir.
We're taking attendance.